What's going on, guys? Jacoby Kendrick here, the BJJ Realtor. Just wanted to come at you with another video. Want to talk about what to expect on your first competition. So whenever you're doing your first competition or getting ready to compete and go do your first competition, mainly talking about uh, going out with a federation, not like an in-house competition or anything like that where you're fighting people that you already know, but a competition where you're going out. It's put together by a group, usually like IBJJF or AGF, which is American Grappling Federation, some group like that, where you're going out probably to another city or another state to compete, and there's going to be a lot of unknowns, and plus also just kind of talk about like the format of competition and what you should do. So that's what you can expect in this video. So the first thing I want to say is that whenever you go to compete, you are probably going to be nervous. And if you're not nervous, there's probably something wrong with you. I don't know anybody who goes out and does like a combat sport or martial arts or something where you have the potential of being injured, or you're going up against another individual, human being, and you're not nervous. If you're not nervous, there's something wrong. You should have like at least some sort of anxiety, is what I'll call it. And it's not always bad. That's a good thing. It means you actually care. It means you actually are excited about what's going on. That doesn't have to be a bad thing. So it's a good thing. Just know that you're going to be nervous. You're going to be amped up, especially until that first match comes. Once that first match is done, then you're going to be all right and ready to go. So the thing I'll say is make sure you embrace that feeling, because a lot of people get that feeling and they have a negative attitudes towards it, or they just think that it's bad in general, and that'll affect your performance and it'll affect your mental health as well. So just know that you're nervous. Everyone's nervous. Your opponent is nervous. Even though they don't look like they're nervous, they're definitely nervous. They've got some anxiety. Everybody has it whenever they go to compete. Everybody just handles it differently, right? Now the second thing I want to talk about is, because this is like a big thing, like I've competed a lot. So I played football in college. I had the opportunity to possibly to play in the NFL as well. I played sports all through my entire life. CrossFit, was almost made it to the CrossFit Games. Like I've done a lot of competing. So competition is not like something that's out of the norm for me. But whenever I went to compete for jiu-jitsu, I haven't really done anything that's like combative like this, right? And so the one thing that I thought was crazy is one thing that they call an adrenaline dump. And so once you go and do your first match, when it comes up for your first match and you're going head to head with someone, you're going to be amped up. You're going to be, especially if it's your first tournament, right? Especially if you're a white belt, just expect this. You're going to be so amped up, so tight. All your moves are going to be like bigger than what they normally are. So you go in for the pull guard, like you pull the guy over your head instead of like pulling him into your guard, or like when you go for a single leg or whatever, you just overshoot it or something like that. That those are just normal things because you're just so amped up. And like in the match, you'll be fine. Like you'll be holding your grips, or like you'll have a position and you'll be just holding it super tight. And you're just draining, the blood out of your forearms. But after that fight is over, if you win, you're possibly going to have another match as well, right? And so after your first match, you're probably going to feel super, super tired. And your forearms are kind of going to be super, super blown up because you're just gripping and holding on so tight. And what always goes through my head, or what used to go through my head, is like, I don't know if I can do another match. And then if I win that match, I definitely don't know if I can go on to a third match, right? And so just know that you're going to have that feeling whenever you compete. You're going to have that feeling, especially your first time that you go out. And so whenever that happens, just know, have somebody there that can maybe massage your forearms, or have some way that you can try to get the blood back into your forearms. And just know that you've got time. They're going to have other matches before your next match comes up. And if you're an IBJJF, you at least get 5 minutes. You have to check. I'm not sure exactly on the rules, but from my understanding, you'll at least get 5 minutes, a whole nother match before you have to go again. So whenever you're training, you want to make sure you train for that time period so you know that you can recover after your matches, right? So adrenaline dump is the next one. Now, what I want to talk about next is kind of how the format kind of works, which I wasn't really told about the format before I went to go compete, which probably would have been a little helpful for me whenever I went out and did my first actual match, right? And so I'm mostly going to be talking about IBJJF because that's who we normally compete with, and everybody else is pretty much the same as well. And so the thing I would tell you, when you first get to the venue, I would get there about an hour early, maybe an hour and a half early before, in case they're running a little bit ahead of schedule, which does happen, especially in no-gi. But I would get there early, and they're going to have, it's called a bullpen, where everybody gets ready before they actually go out to the mats. And in the area there, in the bullpen, they're going to have actually like a test scale. So they usually have 2 sets of mats, and one set of athletes goes on one side, the other set of athletes go on the other side, depending on what match you're on. So it might be like 1 through 6 on one side and 7 through 12 on the other. And then in the middle, they're going to have like a test scale in there. And so what I always do whenever I first get to the venue is you get there, you get your gi, your belt, and all that stuff, stand on the scale, and make sure that, you know, your scale at home hopefully is the same as the scale that's at the venue. And so you get on there. If your weight is good, then you can feel confident that when you go to check in that your weight's going to be good as well. So that's the first thing I would always do whenever you go to a venue when you're starting out in your first tournament. Go and make sure your weight is good. Now, once your weight's good, they're also going to have these TV screens there as well that is going to have, like, it's called the order of fights. And basically what that is it's going to show like match 1. It's going to have the 2 competitors on there, and they're going to be going at, let's say, like 1 o'clock, and then it'll have match 2 after that, and they're going to be going at like 1:06, and then match 3 they're going to be going at 1:12, and then so forth and so on. And so, like, you're going to have these matches, and that's going to tell you when you need to actually go into the bullpen, the holding area, for your match. And so the one thing that I did not know, so I'll tell you a little quick story. Whenever I was competing for International Novice for IBJJF, they were actually running ahead of schedule, like way ahead of schedule, probably like an hour. And they started calling my name. And so they're like, hey, Jacoby Kendrick, you know, we need you to come check in, to come sign in. And so it was an hour before. I was actually in the bathroom at the time. I started rushing to get done. And then, like, I went and got my gi on, got everything on, got signed in, checked in, and then sat in the bullpen for like an hour. And the reason why I sat in there for an hour is because officially they can't disqualify you until it's like 30 minutes after the original time you were scheduled to fight. So let's say I was scheduled to fight at 2 o'clock, but they were ahead by an hour and they're calling me at 1 o'clock. Well, if I go and check in, but my opponent hasn't checked in because he's, you know, going to the venue thinking, we usually get there and support our teammates, but if somebody else gets there and they're like, oh, I don't go until 2 o'clock, they don't know that the venue's running early. So they get there at, let's say, 1:45, or they get there right at 2 o'clock. Well, you don't officially get disqualified until 2:30, 30 minutes after your original time to be scheduled there. So what you'll want to do is when you go and check in, if things are running early, you'll want to see if your opponent has already checked in or not. If your opponent has already checked in, it's a good idea to check in, because when your time comes up, if your opponent's there, you guys will fight, and then you'll wait on the rest of your time for the matches, for if you have other matches that you're gonna have to fight as well. But if your opponent's not there, then you're just gonna be sitting in the bullpen waiting, which could be, if they're an hour early, could be 90 minutes, not 60 minutes. It could be an hour and a half because the person has 30 minutes after. And so what I usually do is I usually just start warming up, getting warm, and then I just check the board every once in a while to see if my opponent has actually showed up or not. And then, you know, if they have shown up, then I'll get ready, get super warm to where I'm ready almost to fight, and then I'll go check in. But if I go check in, they haven't checked in, then I'm going to get warm, possibly get cold, you know, and then wondering where they're at. and all that stuff. So I say that to say this: if they start calling your name and your opponent hasn't shown up, you don't have to rush. That's the thing. That's the key thing. You have 30 minutes after your original time that you were scheduled to be there. And so that is like huge, especially mentally, because you're already thinking about your fight. And now you're thinking, man, they're calling me. I'm going to be late. I'm going to get disqualified. So that's the key. 30 minutes after your original time you're supposed to be there, you're good. Second, competing. How does competition work? So competing, whenever you're called out, your first match, the ring coordinator for IBJJF, say you're on mat 5, there'll be a person with a vest on that says mat 5. They'll call you and your opponent. You'll go out to the mat. Usually they call you while the other match that's on the mat is currently going. Once that match is over, you step up to the mat. Ref calls you out. You do your match. When you're done, if you have other matches, usually you'll go back to the bullpen. The other matches will fight, and then when it's time for you to go up again, they'll walk you back out to the mat again. And that's kind of how that works. Usually, if you have like multiple fights, you're going to be done within. They don't usually do like multiple fights in between your fights. So usually, if you have like 3 people in your bracket, then you'll be done within 30 minutes. If there's more, then obviously 5-minute matches for masters. I'm a master, so we do 5-minute matches. And so that's kind of how that works. Once you're done competing, you need to go get your medal. Okay? And so like once you're done, you can kind of, cool down a little bit. And then what I always do, or like to tell people to do, is to go to the podium next, because you got to get your medals. The other thing I'll say too is that I wanted to say, competing. If you have 3 people in your bracket, you will fight each person. If there are 4 people in your bracket, you'll fight 2 times. So you'll always fight 2 times. All right. When you're done, go to the podium. Always remember that if there are 4 people in your bracket, everyone will get a medal. So if you're in the semifinal, you're going to get a medal. So hang around, and if you lose in the semi, go get your medal. Obviously, if you lose in the final, you're first or second. But 4 people usually get medals: 2 third place, 1 second place, and 1 first place. So watch the finals match. Once the finals match is over, go to the podium. You have to give them your ID at the station at the podium. And then once everybody's there, the 4 people that are getting medals, then you'll go up. Same thing as when you compete. Once everybody's there, you'll go up and get your medals. If everybody doesn't show up, then there's a timer again. We just had this happen at a competition I was at. One guy was new to competing. He didn't know he was going to get a medal because he lost in the semifinal, and I guess he left. I don't know. He left, and we had to wait another 45 minutes because they kept calling this guy. And then there's a timer on how long they have before they can give out the medals without that person being there. So when you get done, get your medal, and then go on from there. So those are kind of the things you can expect whenever you're competing. Number 1, like I said, is you're going to be nervous. Know that you're going to be nervous. Everybody gets nervous. Embrace it. Number 2, you're going to have an adrenaline dump. After your first match, you're going to have that thought in your mind: I don't know if I can do this second match. And if I win my second match, I definitely don't know if I can do my third. So just know that you're going to have an adrenaline dump. You're going to be more tired after that first match than you will be after the second and third matches. Third, always weigh in. So when you first get to the venue, weigh in on the practice scale, and then get all your stuff together, and then do your official weigh-in. Number 4 is just things on the bullpen, what to do, how to manage when your partner's there, how much time you have before you're disqualified and all that. 5, competing. And then 6 is getting your medals. Always go get your medal right after your match. Tell all your other competitors too, hey, let's head over to the podium and go get our medals. That way you're not having to wait around, and then you can go cheer your teammates on as well. Hope you guys enjoyed this. If it was useful to you, let me know in the comments, and also hit that subscribe button for me as well. Going to be putting out more content. Hope you're enjoying it. Talk to you later.